Narmaya is one of the most popular characters in Relink, for better or for worse, and if you played online at all, you probably ran into a lot of them. You might even main her yourself, and if you do, I cannot blame you because she is definitely a really fun character who is able to put out some of the highest damage in the game with her ability to shift stances and use finishers if you are able to time everything correctly. Not to mention the butterfly mechanic can increase the damage of her ability significantly as well. Not too many characters can reach north of 40 million and even 45 million with really good RNG in the DPS tests here. In this video I want to discuss Narmaya, talk about her strengths and weaknesses, discuss general playstyle and setup, and showcase some practical use of the character. If you enjoy guide content like this for Relink or RPGs in general, and especially Xenoblade and would like to see more, please be sure to subscribe to the channel because it does help me out so much. There is also my Discord and Twitter in the description where I'll be posting these videos when they are live if you'd like to be notified sooner. So let's get into this. So Narmaya is another primarily melee DPS character with a big focus on outputting as much damage as she can. Her main gimmick is the ability to swap between two different forms which affect her normal attacks and some of her skills. You have the Dawnfly stance, which is the default form and gives her attacks a pink flare. This stance has higher damage per individual hit and also cleaves in front of her to have a bit of area of effect damage, and the finisher in this form is a very wide cleave. However, the hits are a bit slow compared to her other form, the Free Flutter form, which is more focused on single target damage and very fast rapid fire attacks. Your attacks in this form will gain a blue flare. In general, you can swap forms by pressing the Y button on certain controllers like mine, which is just the combo finisher button on most other layouts. This is also briefly explained in the first of her support skills, Butterfly Effect. The second of these support skills is Take Flight, which says that you gain butterflies by landing certain attacks which enhance your skills. You can have up to 6 of these butterflies total, and the major benefit is being able to gain a lot of damage from the addition of these butterflies. While typically the Free Flutter stance is designed to do more damage to single targets, so you may be tempted to stick to it in most fights, this is not actually the ideal way to play the character because of this butterfly mechanic. So by landing combo attacks in your different forms, then performing a stance shift finisher by switching forms at the perfect time, you'll be able to perform a strong finisher attack while switching forms at the same time instead of just normally swapping and doing drastically less damage. The combo will also grant a butterfly if performed correctly, and the stance shift finisher will grant an additional butterfly, meaning you can get a lot of additional butterflies from doing this correctly. And that also means you'll get more damage and benefit out of all of your skills. The Dawnfly finisher involves holding a normal attack, fully charging it, then pressing the stance change button to perform a finisher afterward. This hold attack will charge faster depending on what actions were taken before it. Typically, 3 normal attacks into the hold attack is the fastest way to charge the attack, and what you're going to be doing more often than not. The hold attack charges much slower if you try to charge it immediately upon getting into the Dawnfly stance, so that is something to keep in mind. For the Free Flutter stance, it's a bit easier since you just need to mash the attack button over and over until you do a little windmill attack, which leads into the stance change finisher. While swapping is a good thing, ideally you do want to limit your time in Dawnfly stance since Free Flutter does do a lot of damage and also benefits one skill that is used greatly. So there are a couple tricks you can do to perform this. The first is a link attack will always allow you to stance change finisher afterwards, so if you can time your stance shifts well, you can quickly get a finisher off after a link attack to get back into Free Flutter form quicker, while still building up butterfly since link attacks also grant a butterfly. The second is using one of your skills, such as the Kyokatsu Getsu skill, and I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, and then going immediately into a hold attack since this will give you the fastest possible charge speed for the hold attack to allow you to stance shift sooner and still giving you the 2 butterflies. These are both used in the 42 million run I got at certain points in Score Attack. So while she can output a lot of damage, you can't just be mindlessly mashing. You do need to pay attention to what's going on and know when to swap form optimally to get the most use out of the character. You can also dodge out of your normal attack combos and continue them immediately afterwards, so if you have good timing against bosses, you can still dodge their attacks without having your combo interrupted, which is probably the most optimal way to play the character, even if it can be dangerous. Butterflies will add a not insignificant amount of damage to certain skills she has, with full butterflies capable of outputting millions of additional damage easily, so gaining butterflies is really important to using the character effectively. So learning her timings is going to be very important. I'll talk a bit more about it when we get there, but Narmaya also has a unique sigil that has a 50% chance not to consume her butterflies on skill use, so with good RNG, you can output some really incredible damage with her, which is how I was able to reach this 42 million with the character in Score Attack. However, with really, really good luck, you can even go above 45 million, especially if you have better overmastery bonuses than I did. But on average, you'll definitely get lower because unfortunately this is still based on RNG. Narmaya is a character who isn't too terribly difficult to understand, but does take some practice to really get used to. That should cover the basics, so any additional combat information will be included in the gameplay section of the video. Let's get into setup. So this is what I was running for my score attack run. I would not recommend this for general play because even though it can output a lot of damage, you are missing a lot of defensive utility. Except for the guts that saw my glass cannon because that just naturally came with that, so I might as well just have it there. But otherwise, there is no defensive utility, no team support or anything on this kit otherwise that can really benefit you outside of just doing as much damage as possible. And you will very quickly die if you get hit even once because you have no recourse for the Dizzy from glass cannon. So as a more general setup, what I would recommend running is something more like this. Now, the actual weapon is going to be the Terminus weapon. As per usual, this is a really, really good weapon. It has Catastrophe on it, one of the best effects in the game. Gives you a huge attack boost, a big bonus to your damage cap as well. When below 45,000 health, it gives you Sigil Booster, really good effect as well to increase all the effects of your traits, and also gives you a bit of additional damage cap as well, which allows you to hit a lot higher damage numbers when you have that maxed out. So definitely run the Catastrophe weapon if you have it, if you've gotten that drop. If not, the crit rate weapon is probably going to be your best bet for the most part, and you'll be able to save some crit rate sigils that I have equipped at least. The imbued traits give me just enough critical hit rate to reach 100% with my 2 crit rate sigils and overmastery bonus, so that is why I'm using the critical hit rate there. I like having 100% critical hit rate for the consistency. Skilled Assault is really nice because this is a very nice damage boost to your skills, even at level 6. It offers a 35% damage boost, and there is one skill Narmaya has, which has trouble reaching cap just because of how the skill works, but with this, it kind of bridges the damage gap of that a lot, which is very helpful. And then finally, Blight Resistance is the other imbued skill. This reduces the damage you take from Blight. This is just kind of a filler skill more than anything, but it does help against some of the later Proud mode raids because a lot of them do have Blight damage attached to them in some of the fights since you're fighting the Nilhillas and everything like that. So as far as the actual sigil traits I have, I've got critical hit rate 5 and stamina. This is a really good sigil because it gives 2 things you want. Stamina is like a 50% attack boost at level 15, which is really nice. And critical hit rate's just really nice in general because critical hits do a lot more damage. I am also running Tyranny that has the bonus effect Cascade on it. Tyranny also increases your damage by a pretty large amount in exchange for lowering your maximum health. Now, if you do have an Aegis that you can conveniently slot into one of your slots, then that can be nice to kind of offset the health penalty here. I couldn't really conveniently fit one into this, but if you have something that allows you to fit Aegis, it could be something that might be nice to fit in. If you wanted to get rid of one of your quick cooldowns or even the Cascade, you can probably fit it in a little bit easier, though. But I do like the shorter cooldowns, at least for maximizing damage and optimizing a bit further myself. I have my obligatory 3 damage cap 5 pluses. These increase the damage cap, allow you to hit higher damage. 2 of these have quick cooldown just to increase your cooldown so you can use more skills. And then the Potion Hoarder is on the last one. Potion Hoarder is one of the best effects in the game. Gives you a lot of potions, allows you to heal yourself, allows you to revive yourself 3 times. Fantastic sigil effect. So definitely recommend having that. Her 2 unique sigils are some of the strongest sigil effects you can possibly have. You have Butterfly's Grace and Butterfly's Valor. Butterfly's Grace will grant you an additional butterfly every time you land a combo finisher or link attack, which gives you a lot more additional butterflies, which increases the damage of your skills even further. And it goes really well with Butterfly's Valor, which gives you a chance not to consume butterflies on skill, and that's a 50% chance, as I mentioned earlier, which means that 50% of the time you'll get the benefit of your butterflies while still keeping all of your butterflies. So if you have 6 butterflies, you will get a ton of benefit when this triggers, because your next skill will also take advantage of your butterflies, which is very, very nice to do a lot of additional damage, since you can proc a lot of additional damage from using your butterflies. And obviously, Butterfly's Grace definitely have this as well, because getting an additional butterfly per skill means that when you don't get this 50% roll, you still get butterflies a lot faster just by being able to stack them up a lot sooner. So these are very, very nice effects. Definitely recommend running these. If you have the Awakened version, you can run these both on the same set. However, I have 2 really good traits on the normal versions of these, so I'm not really losing out by not running the Awakened version. In fact, sometimes running the 2 versions by themselves like this is better because you can stack an extra red trait since you can get one on each of these. I have a damage cap 5 plus on Butterfly's Grace, which is really nice, and critical hit rate on Butterfly's Valor, which allows me to reach that 100% critical hit rate. So very nice bonus effects on those. 2 supplementary damages. These are kind of, you do not have to run these if you want to be a little bit more defensive. You can definitely kind of fit in an Aegis there, maybe fit in another defensive utility ability here as well. But I like doing some damage, so that is why I'm just running these. This gives me about 70% supplementary damage, I believe, with both of these. Let me see the exact amount here. So yeah, 74% chance, really nice. That is basically 3/4 of the time you're triggering supplementary damage, which is a free extra 20% damage every time it does trigger. So about 15% extra damage total with these 2 slots here. Again, you can be more defensive. Running only one of these still gives you about a 40% chance to trigger it, which is still really nice. Linked Together, I do feel, is just a really viable team support sigil, which allows you to build Link level faster, which means that you can use Link time sooner, and it also has another quick cooldown attached to it as well. So 2 really nice, useful effects there. Improved Dodge is more of my defensive utility sigil. It has both Improved Dodge and Guts on it, which are 2 really, really nice traits. Guts allows you to survive lethal hits with 1 HP on a short cooldown of 2 minutes and 40 seconds, which is really nice. And Improved Dodge gives you dodge count +4, meaning you can dodge 7 times in a row without any negative benefit. And it also gives you more time to dodge attacks. So I really like running this in general. It's really useful on Narmaya, who wants to stay in the enemy's face really often. So as long as you're paying attention to when the enemy is about to attack, you'll have a pretty good chance of dodging it and being allowed to continue your combo and using your stance change finishers and everything. So I do really like this ability on Narmaya. War Elemental is pretty much a required sigil on most characters because it allows you to ignore damage cap on most enemies that have any kind of element and do an additional 20% damage to them, which is really, really nice to have. So definitely recommend running this if you have it. So once again, you can definitely get some better sub-traits and better locations. If you get a supplementary damage 5+ with a really good sub-trait, that can help as well. Aegis is another really good ability. The ability that gives you more invincibility when you dodge is also pretty nice for defensive utility. So there are definitely some other things you can run. Auto-revive is another option even. So plenty of things you can run. You can get some sub-traits in better locations. You can still do a lot of additional damage. You can even fit another supplementary damage if you get lucky enough. So definitely a lot of things you can do. You can even cut out a critical hit rate if you get really, really good overmastery bonuses. So a lot of things you can do. This is just the setup I'm running and that I've had a lot of success with myself. So something similar to this will give you a lot of success. So let's talk about skills really quickly. So for her skills, the 4 standard skills you're probably going to be running most of the time are these 4. This will give you the most damage possible. Kyokatsugetsu. This is a lunge attack. It doesn't do too much damage unless you have a lot of butterflies, which will do a lot of additional damage. And you can kind of see the damage difference when you do have a lot of butterflies. But the most important utility it has is it's a really low cooldown, and it also allows you to kind of lunge to the enemy immediately, which is really good as a gap closer effect. So I definitely recommend running this pretty much all the time. Transient is one of your strongest attacks that you have access to. It does a lot more damage when you are in free flutter form, though, so you do not want to use it if you are in Dawnfly stance, because you will get more damage out of it in free flutter stance, which is very beneficial. So make sure you're using this in free flutter stance when you have it, so kind of save the cooldown if you're not in free flutter stance. Setsuna, this is a chargeable attack. This is the one skill that doesn't always reach the damage cap with my current setup, but that's not really a big deal. That's one of the reasons I have Skilled Assault as just a level 6 effect as my imbue trait, because it allows me to get closer to that. If you charge it fully, you will easily hit damage cap. However, if you don't want to waste too much time, you're probably going to want to do a minimal charge or no charge, so you just kind of tap the button and you'll still get a lot of damage out of it that's kind of near the cap if you've got enough damage boosters at the very least. Now, it is worth noting you can accidentally cancel this effect early. You do want to remain still for a second after using it, because when she sheaths her sword, there is another slash that will come out, and if you cancel that early, you will not get that bonus damage from that, so do keep that in mind. And Dance of Pink Petals is her best buff ability. This is a 30% attack boost while it is active, which is really nice. It grants Stout Heart, meaning you cannot be interrupted while it is active, which is also really nice if you accidentally do take any damage. You could also combo this with the sigil that lowers the damage you take while Stout Heart is active, so that's something to keep in mind if you want even more defensive utility and you don't trust your ability to dodge. And it also adds additional supplementary damage that stacks with the sigils that grant supplementary damage, so you will not lose any benefit out of that if you are running this ability. So very, very good buff. Definitely recommend running that pretty much all the time. Her other 4 skills are a little less useful compared to her main 4. The first is Apex of Nothingness. This is a parry, so if she gets hit while this is active, you will be able to inflict slow and remove 1 buff from the foe on hit. I believe even if she does not hit a foe after a certain amount of time, it does activate anyway and does a little bit of damage. And the amount of damage you deal can be increased based on the amount of butterflies that you have. And the effect can also be increased based on the amount of butterflies you have, which is also pretty nice. The slow can be nice as well for certain strategies, but I wouldn't recommend running this most of the time. Crescent Moon will unleash a long slash while jumping back, and the skill strength is based on your butterfly count. Now, this doesn't actually do all that much damage, so most of the time I do not recommend running this, but you can be nice to have a jump back effect. But most of the time you're going to want to be in the enemy's face anyway, so you're probably not going to be running this too often. Dance of Blue Petals is a more defensive utility-based ability that grants defense and restores health to her Narmaya, and she also gains 3 butterflies from it. So her defense is boosted by 40%, which is actually a pretty significant amount, and just like Dance of Pink Petals, it also grants 3 butterflies. I think I forgot to mention that on the Pink Petals section. But it only boosts your defense as opposed to all the buffs that the attack buff offers you, so definitely going to be the less useful buff most of the time, especially when you want to output as much damage as possible. Still, if you want to run a tank setup, maybe you can consider running this. And then finally, we have Utter Devotion. This grants hostility to Narmaya and inflicts defense down on foes, meaning that all of your allies will do more damage to them if they aren't already hitting their damage caps. And you also gain 3 butterflies, and you have hostility, which means you're more likely to be attacked. So this is kind of an aggro ability. Maybe it combos really well with Dance of Blue Petals. It's also kind of a buff effect that grants you 3 butterflies instantly. So maybe if you are trying to be a really good tank and try to save your allies, maybe you could run this with Dance of Blue Petals, but then you lose out on a lot of damage from not having your other skills. So I don't really think I would really run her a more defensive way like this. And I would only run hostility if you really trust your ability to dodge or not get hit by attacks. So definitely kind of stick with the damage setup for most setups here, but if you want to try something different, her other skills aren't terrible at the very least. And then finally, we have Masteries. So once again, you do want to max out her Masteries if you want to be perfectly optimal with her. Offense, defense tree, collection tree. And then over Mastery bonuses, most of the time this is going to be the same as everything else. Normal damage cap up is probably going to be the most important thing since a lot of her damage comes from that. Skill damage cap up, I only have 10% on mine, so you can definitely get even more damage than me if you want to beat my 42 million time. And I also only have critical hit rate up 6%, but this is just enough for me to hit 100% with the equipment I have, so that's not really a big deal for me as long as I just got a little bit there. So normal attack damage cap up, skill damage cap up is usually going to be the most important things no matter what. And critical hit rate up after that. If you get 20% on critical hit rate, you can save a critical hit rate sigil, by the way, and still hit 100%, so that is something to keep in mind as well. Skybound Art damage cap up could be useful, and attack up can be useful to maybe hit the damage limit on that one skill that doesn't always hit damage cap, so those are some things to keep in mind as well. That was a lot of information, so let's go ahead and finally get into the combat section. So once again, maybe final raid spoilers here if you do not want to be spoiled on that, so just be aware of that before we get into it. So video is kind of long already, so I'm just going to showcase one fight that I did against Provo Baja. Ironically, this is the one time I would actually recommend doing the slower charge of your hold attack when you're in Dawnfly form, just because, well, you want to be able to make sure you build up those butterflies, and these enemies don't have a ton of health, so if you end up slashing them, you might end up killing them, especially if your allies are attacking them too, so sometimes just charging the attack before the spheres appear can be really nice, just to guarantee you get those butterflies. So I was able to get 2 butterflies out of that move there, which was really nice. And then I go destroy some orbs. Most of the time, though, you'll definitely want to do the 3 attacks into your charge attack in order to get the faster charge time and cancel into your free flutter faster. So sometimes it can be beneficial just to hold a charge in this section because the orbs will continuously appear. Like I was able to hit an orb there even though I couldn't even see it just because I waited a little bit before releasing it. The targeting is really weird in this game sometimes, so it can be a little annoying to actually do everything properly. Like even there, it kind of got confused for a second. I tried to dodge out of the attack here, but I ended up running right back into it at the last moment. I thought the AoE had gone off, but I'm just bad at the game, so not a big deal. While he's coming down, I go ahead and activate my buff since there's cast time on activating the buff, and then I go in and use my I use my dash attack, so I get the fastest possible charge on the hold attack, which allows me to quickly cancel into free flutter form, which allows me to do a lot of damage with that. And then I do my combo with that, and then use Transient with that, which does a lot of damage. and gets him to that 80% threshold where he just runs away. I hold on to the cooldown for Setsuna, the sword slash attack, so I can just have that for later. There's no reason to just use it now. And I'll also have my buff art back about a little after the next time he comes back down, so using it early is not really a huge deal here. So at this point, I just go ahead and charge up and attack again because he's coming back, so I just want to be able to get that quick cancel here. And get more attacks off. And then we get the link attack off, so I'm going to be able to cancel out of that as well into the combo finisher, the stance change finisher, and get another butterfly out of that. I think I end up whiffing my attacks because of the hitbox issues. That's one thing that can be a little annoying in this fight when you're running melee characters. I go ahead and guard the claw attack instead of trying to dodge that, since you can't hit him after that anyway because he moves too far away from the ship. And then I go ahead and dash to one of the crystals, use the charge hold attack to hit both crystals at the same time. The combo finisher doesn't end up hitting anyone, unfortunately, because the crystals are dead at that point. Not really a huge deal, though. I do end up getting hit by the claw swipe, because I thought they'd kill the crystals on the other side a little bit faster, but not really a huge deal either. Just had guts. That's one of the reasons you run defensive utility options, just in case that happens. And now I just kind of do the standard general combo you saw against the dummy, where I'm trying to stay in free flutter as much as possible, but I'm also kind of swapping and using combo finishers to make sure I can build up butterflies and do damage with my skills. So as soon as I get back into Dawnfly here, I know I have my dash move up, so I go ahead and immediately dash, use the hold attack, so I can get right back into Free Flutter quicker. So this is just kind of the combos you want to do against most enemies, especially when you have free moments. Now, unfortunately, we did not build up our gauge a little bit fast here, so all of us do not have quite 100% here besides the Rakan, which got it easily. Probably because I was charging attack, so I didn't build up as fast in the beginning stages of the fight, so that's probably my fault. But regardless, we'll have it next time it comes back down, so once we survive this phase, the fight is basically over. So one thing we never get to do in this fight because of that is Link time. Link time with Narmaya, you are able to spam your skills much more actively. So that is one really nice benefit to that, and you can basically always have your buff art up during Link time, and you can just spam your really high damage attacks in Free Flutter form with Transient and Setsuna. So that's probably the best thing to do during Link time. So during this part, it's just a lot of dodging, waiting until we get a chance to attack him. You can't really hit him during this section. He does have the claw move that comes down over on the other side of the ship there, but it's a very brief moment, so there's not really enough time to really do much of anything. And he does the laser attack where he's still a little bit too far away from the ship to hit him with a short-range melee character. You can probably hit him with a charge attack here, but it's probably better to just sit in a corner and guard here just to make sure that the laser attack's not going to kill you. So it's really easy to guard and not take damage from it at least, so not too hard there. Then make sure if you're doing this fight, you destroy your orb, get to a cannon, destroy the orb closest to you. And if the person on the other side is not destroying their orb, make sure to destroy that one too, just to make sure there's no issues. We get the crystal in the middle here. So I fail my dodge timing here and end up getting hit by that, unfortunately, but I do get the second dodge timing at the very least. So I dodge the second AoE on the ground, now he comes back down, and this is where the fight's basically over. I'm going to activate my buff art and just kind of go to town on him with the same rotations you have already seen here. So in Dawnfly, I try to get out of that by dashing into it and canceling immediately. Since there was a Link attack up, I could actually use that to get back into Free Flutter as well. I use Setsuna there to get a lot of additional damage, since that does a lot of damage, especially while the buff art is active. My targeting was a little off there. It ended up targeting his claw I couldn't hit for a little bit, unfortunately, because of the targeting system is a little whack in this game, but fortunately not a huge deal. As soon as he gets back up, I use SBA. And this should basically end the fight, where we'll be able to combo him from here and end everything pretty simply. So now I'm just going to do my maximum damage rotation here until the fight is over. So all in all, really fun character to use. Just kind of understanding how the principles of her attack supply is going to be the key to victory. For some reason, the Siegfried did not follow us up there, but he does use it here at the 1% mark for some reason, which is really funny. So since the fight's over at this point, I just spam a couple blue potions so I can increase my honor, so I can pretend I'm much better at the game than I am. Regardless, though, pretty easy fight. A lot of the general principles will apply in other fights. In other fights, you'll have more windows to dodge attacks and continue your combo, because this one has a lot of downtime when you can't attack him because of how the fight is structured. But regardless, though, that was kind of how I would probably approach this type of fight with Narmaya. With all that being said, I hope you guys learned something from watching this video, and you have learned a little bit more about how to play the character and understanding how her rotation works to maximize her DPS. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and support me any other way you can. Please look forward to all of my future guides on the game as well, and any other future characters I cover. I plan to make a guide on everyone if I can. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please look forward to future videos, as I said, and have a wonderful and blessed day, and hopefully I'll see you back here soon.